Well, welcome everybody. We are recording this. If you're live, thank you for joining us live. If you're watching the recording, thank you for watching the recorded message, the recorded playback, which is on all of our recordings are on YouTube. You can watch any number of them. You can binge watch them till you fall asleep. But at any rate, let's share. Where are we here? And here we go. Um, Thank you for joining in. And here we go. If you're an athlete, if you have a body, you are an athlete. I always like starting with this idea. A lot of people can't say I am an athlete, even though they're training for a marathon, which is extremely an athletic thing to do. Less than 1% of the population will ever do a marathon in their lifetimes, which is pretty athletic, darn athletic thing to do. At any rate, that's me. Really quick, the book that I co-wrote with Paula. So tonight's chat, we're going to talk about caffeine, cold, and positive motivation to get out in the cold. And that's tonight's discussion. Not a long, in-depth one, but a rather important one for this time of the year. It's getting into that cold, rainy season. It's just getting started. Really, first off, caffeine. High volumes of caffeine can give you as much as 10% more energy output. Now, you'd have to drink like 3 to 6, the equivalent cups of, coffee, depending on how much caffeine is in your cup of coffee. But that's a lot to drink. Even 3 cups of coffee would be a lot of liquid all at once. You can get caffeine in all sorts of products, like gels, have caffeine in them. 20 to even some gels have 100 milligrams of caffeine, which is outrageous, which is a fair amount. But it is, I suggest, toward the end of your race, something that is of value to give your body the fake idea that you have more energy than you think you do. Your subconscious brain is essentially faked into thinking that you have more glycogen and all sorts of levels that build energy, even when you don't have those things, like sodium and hydration and glycogen, which comes from carbs. That's what caffeine does. You would, in order to have caffeine become effective during race day, we're talking about race day, is you need to taper off. And we'll discuss this again in terms of nutrition for race day. Late in the season, we'll just talk about it again. But you need to taper off caffeine a few weeks in advance, which means if you can get off caffeine completely 4 weeks before your LA Marathon or 4 weeks before your Rose Bowl half, that would be great. But then the day of your race, caffeine will be far, far more effective, and you'll feel the difference from caffeine far more increased than if you just drink a cup or two of coffee a day. You may not really feel that much. If you drink 4 cups of coffee a day, you won't feel any different from taking in caffeine on race day because your body builds up to it. But, I strongly recommend don't go cold turkey. Don't just like, okay, I'm doing 2 cups of coffee a day and I'm going to stop immediately. Even 1 cup of coffee a day. Don't just stop immediately, because you could end up with severe headaches because coffee is a drug and you could be going through withdrawal symptoms if you're a regular caffeine drinker, coffee, tea, whatever. Tea obviously has far less caffeine than, or less caffeine than most coffee. If you're going to Starbucks, that can be 100 milligrams of caffeine in one of those cups of Starbucks, where a normal cup of coffee might be like 35, 40 milligrams of caffeine. But at any rate, so reduce, like, if you're drinking a lot, like reduce half a cup a day, reduce a quarter a cup a day, depending on how much you're drinking. So you're not dropping volume of caffeine enormously. There's really no magic pill, but caffeine, I gotta say, is probably the best legal performance enhancing drug that there is, maybe even illegal performance enhancing drug. Like I said, it is legal. If you're a pro athlete, there are limits to how much you can take in. Do not do a lot of caffeine or possibly any caffeine if you have high blood pressure or you're hypertensive, same thing, because we don't want to increase your blood pressure from raising your caffeine levels. So be careful if you have high blood pressure with caffeine. You may want to talk to a doctor or a nutritionist before you start taking in caffeine on race day. But and if you have high blood pressure. Okay, now the fun stuff. It's okay to get wet. It's okay to run in the rain. Here's the problem. I mean, let's face it. Hopefully, we all take showers regularly. I took one this morning. Um, I thank you very much. I appreciate your applause. We do sweat. We do get wet from that. We go swimming. We do get wet. We're designed to get wet. That's not the issue. The problem is water is a better conductor of hot or cold than than air, right? So if you're soaking wet and it's cold outside, your body is surrounded by this layer of cold water, and your internal function is going to have to work harder to get to stay warm, right? So, you know, if you insulate yourself with layers, the key is stay warm. You can always wear a hat, you can always wear gloves because most of the heat from your body leaves from your feet. Well, you're already wearing shoes, hopefully. If you wear gloves from your hands or your head, you can keep a lot of heat in just from your hat, your gloves, and your shoes. But you may want to wear layers, like thin layers, even like a thin jacket that's like a running raincoat. And if it stops raining and the sun comes out and it starts suddenly, it's like 90 degrees, which probably won't be happening if it's raining out. But you can always take off that thin raincoat, wrap the arms around your waist, and then kind of tie the arms around your waist, and then just run with that jacket, raincoat, whatever it is, around your waist, even a sweatshirt or something. As long as you stay warm, it doesn't matter if you're soaking wet. I've run in layers and layers of clothes, soaking wet. I remember one year it was just LA Marathon. I was coaching, I was just standing out there. I wasn't even running. You generate a lot of heat when you run, but I was just standing there and I was soaked through and through. I had 6 layers of clothing. I had a rain hood. I had a hat under the rain hood. I had gloves. I had really 6 layers. I had like three running t-shirts. I had a sweater. I had 2 jackets. That's how much I was wearing. I was warm. I was comfortable, but it all soaked through, but I was okay because I was warm. I mean, I took it off. I was dripping wet, even after I took off the last layer when I got home, but I was comfortable. I stayed warm. That's the key to running in the cold rain. Okay. Um, if it is dark outside, you may want to invest in a headlamp or one of those little flashy things that you can put on your wrist, or so it's kind of like a glow in the dark thing you can put around your neck, like a little necklace that glows in the dark or something. They have these light up vests now that are really, really bright and colorful that light up at night. You can put on a vest, some kind of real visible clothing. They have reflective jackets, and they're not the best, but if there's a headlight coming at you and you have a reflective jacket, they can glow in the dark, so to speak. All good stuff. Keep in mind, cold weather tightens your muscles. I mean, you've all experienced that, I'm sure. But because of your tightened muscles, the reason for this is when your muscles tighten, they're more bulk. They're more kind of bulk when your muscles tighten up, and that bulk is designed to sustain more heat. bulking up of muscles, right? To sustain more heat. So your subconscious brain automatically tightens all your muscles up when it's cold outside, really to try and stay warm as an attempt to do that. But in doing so, there's a greater risk of injury and or cramping. So be really careful out there. You really do need to start slower. Again, like I said, you do generate a lot of heat when you run because, as we discussed in a past lecture, um, you do use the fuel you use is three elements, shall we say? Three particles of phosphate molecules is the word I'm looking for. Three phosphate molecules, one breaks away from the other two, and an electron fires out, which is really a microscopic explosion, shall we say, that really does occur in your body. And like I say, always, if your skin is smoke colored or opaque or clear, which no human is, you would literally glow in the dark because of all these little micro explosions that go on with the fuel that your body uses, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. At any rate, so your body does generally warm up because of all these little explosions going on to move you essentially forward, relax your muscles, whatever. But there is, when you start out, greater risk of injury and cramping because of the tightened muscles you're freezing. Um, uh, because of that tightness, the cold will shorten your stride length, so you're even slower. So don't try and speed up until you relax and loosen up, and that warmth kind of heats you up a little. Hopefully, like I said, you're wearing layers and layers of clothing. You're not shivering cold. Um, that could be a real problem. You don't want to get sick. Um, Cold costs more energy for that reason, excuse me, of you're using more energy to keep your body warm. Your heart is beating harder when your heart rate goes up for any reason, either to cool your body down or to warm your body up. Um, you're using more glycogen. And if you're using more glycogen, what happens? You're depleting that limited reservoir and you're headed for hitting the wall. So on a cold day or a hot day, you're going to need to be slower, at least in a cold day until you warm up. Got it? Because you don't want to deplete all that glycogen reservoir too quickly. Um, Try and relax. Deep breathing, obviously a little slow warm up. A guy named Wim Hof from some Scandinavian country, which one? I don't remember right now. A guy named Wim Hof invented this method of deep breathing, which is really kind of a relaxation technique, followed by like panting, hyperventilating, and then deep breathing again, long and slow. And a whole combination of this kind of thing to relax the body. And this guy has actually swam underneath an iceberg and he's sat in an ice plunge for hours and they tested his body temperature. It did not go down just from this method of his of relaxing his body. It's no great secret of what he does, but it is phenomenal, the result. So do try and relax, deep breathing, all that. If you do find yourself out in the cold and you're not near like more clothes or an indoor place where you can warm up quickly, um, you know, jogging home or jogging back to your car and cranking up the heat's probably a better choice. But at any rate, there is that option if you're out in the middle of a wilderness and it's pouring rain. Um, Again, water is the best conductor of heat or cold. So if you want to warm your body temperature up quickly, which, in the cold weather and you're soaking wet, like I said, your body temperature is going to cool off. If you want to warm your body temperature up quickly, um, an electric blanket won't do it as quick as just jumping in a shower or, warm shower or warm bathtub and just, bathtub water unfortunately cools itself off a little, where warm showers just keeps getting, warm water on you until your water tank, I guess, runs out. But and if you have a married or a partner or whatever, and the warm water runs out before they get in, they may want to kill you. But regardless, fortunately, I am still alive, thankfully, to a slightly understanding wife partner. But at any rate, regardless, jump in a warm shower, and the warm water will heat your body temperature up much more quickly than just standing next to a hot vent in your home or whatever. Jump in the shower. Um, and Lucy reminds us all, even in cold weather, even if you're not really feeling like you need to hydrate because you're just cold and that's all you're feeling, hydrate because you're still sweating. And you do need to moisten all your muscles to relax your muscles. I should say make your muscles more fluid, but from hydration. And you do need hydration to sweat. You don't want to become dehydrated. So there is that. Thank you, Lucy. As a matter of fact, I say this again. Lucy herself went from kind of giving up on racing to really winning her age group. And the only thing she did differently is now she's drinking, quantities of water all day, as opposed to in the past, she just stopped drinking. She didn't drink anything all day. And now she's reversed that. And suddenly she's doing great only because of hydration. That's not the only reason people do better, but for her, huge difference. So hydration is really important. With that said, let's jump into this little positive self-talk. Positive, it's not easy on a cold, rainy day to get out the door. That's why I threw this little segment in to this discussion. And we will have a much longer, deeper dive into the psychology of positive thinking and all that, and racing and positive self-talk. But for now, to help you get out the door on a cold, rainy day or whatever, um, remind yourself that the greater the volume you do, the better the ability you will have. If you get out the door, you will have more volume just because you did it. Meaning you will be a slightly better athlete. You will have greater fitness, right? And dealing with the cold rain will make you better. Your fitness will increase. You will benefit from doing it. So because of the benefits that you want, go for it, right? I see someone throwing their hand up. I'm not sure. At any rate, hang on, we'll get back to you. Um, um, as opposed to looking outside, it's a cold and rainy day. I got to do this. Ooh, I don't want to go outside, not the best positive motivation in the planet. Rule number one, you do need to have fun. Avoid the negative thought. I'm just going to kind of read this. Find a positive way for everything that you do. Find that motivating goal. Like, I want to do better. I want my marathon to be easier. I want my marathon to be faster. Pardon me, whatever it is, I want to beat this friend of mine that has been annoying me because they've been faster than me and beat me in every marathon I've ever done. This time I kick their butt. Whatever motivation you have, whatever goal you have, think of that and use that as a positive affirmation to get out the door, as opposed to the idea, and I quote, a certain running shoe store company, which I will not name, just do it. That's a kind of mindless motivator. And you know something? We runners tend to be more intelligent because we get more oxygen to the brain. We do. And I think of running as an intelligent sport. There's a lot of science to it. Those of you listening to this hopefully will agree with me because you're listening to science and whatever. But psychology, physiology, neurology, all of that enter into running. But nutrition, but the idea of just do it is sort of mindless. And I, like I said, think of running as an intelligent sport that books are written about. And I find that idea just really kind of annoying and self-destructive. So avoid that running shoe company thing. Um, oh, and if all else fails, if you don't want to go outside and run in the rain and the cold, you can do what I used to do when I had a gym right in the complex where I lived. I don't know any longer. Um, just jump on a treadmill in the gym in your apartment complex. Um, we just moved a few weeks ago, so I don't know what the heck I'm going to do on cold, rainy days. But at any rate, there you have it. So, with that, I say to all of you, train smart and train to win, because if you don't, you won't. And if you do, you just might. And I thank you all for listening to this. And I will see you all at the finish line. And thanks again. That may be one of my shorter lectures. Um, but thanks, everybody. And there you go. Let me go back to my normal thing. And I see somebody in the chat. Oh, I think that was my hand that when I did this, it automatically did. I don't know. Anyway, we do have somebody in the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Lolette is smiling. Thank you, Lolette. If any of you guys have any question about what we just talked about, we'll keep the recording going. If not, stay on the live, people, and we'll jump into any question about anything after we turn the recording off. How much water do you carry for a 10-mile run, Neil? It varies so much. There is this old adage that you need 8 ounces of water. Excuse me, you need 8 glasses of 8 ounces of water every day. That would be 64 ounces of water, if I'm not mistaken. Now, keep in mind, everybody is different sizes. Everybody is either running and sweating more or sitting and doing nothing and sweating less. So, the idea of a set volume of water throughout the day makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, let's cancel that one out right now as just nonsense. I would say if you're a bigger person and you are running and sweating a lot, you are going to be needing more and more water because you have more skin volume. More skin volume means you're going to be sweating more over. We sweat all over our bodies, obviously, unlike our animal counterparts who only sweat through their paws, which is an interesting difference, huge difference, which enables us humans to go way, way farther than our pets. We can outrun our dogs. They may be able to speed past us for a short distance, but they can actually drop dead if they go too far because they don't sweat like we do all over. They just sweat through their paws. So be careful with your fine furry friends, who I'm very, respectful of. But at any rate, it would really enormously differ between individual and individual. But as a weird kind of variable, you might say anywhere between 4 and 8 ounces of water for every 10 to 20 minutes. Now, is that a giant range? Yeah. But we humans, there are people who are, 90 pounds. There are people who are 250 pounds without an ounce of fat on them. They're going to be sweating way more. They're going to need way more water than the 90-pound woman who's very petite, maybe similar physique, whatever, but very different, needs, right? For everything, for carbohydrate consumption, for water hydration, for sodium intake, there's so many different variables. And the last lecture, if you didn't see it, on nutrition that was last week was really great. And I highly recommend everyone watching that. It's on YouTube right now. You can go to our LA Roadrunners YouTube channel and find it. The lecture on nutrition with Serena, who did that lecture. Great job on race day nutrition. How much of all this stuff do you need? Really help dial it in and figure out how to calculate sweat rate and all that stuff. Jose, stay positive. See you all soon. Jose, take care. And thanks for the lecture, he says. I thank you for tuning in. Anybody else, any questions regarding this topic, cold weather training or any of that? Anybody else before I turn it off and say goodnight to those people watching the recording? Stay on for those of you not watching stay on for those of you watching live. Anything else? Going once, going twice, going three times. With that, I'm going to say good night to all those watching the recording. I'm going to stay online and answer all the questions until we're done with the evening. And those of you watching the recording, I bid you a good night and have fun out there. That's the key. And good night.